Good evening. This is your tropical weather update on Hurricane Laura, dated August 25th, 2020. Please note, I am not a meteorologist, and all the thoughts and opinions I give here are mine and mine alone. Always consult the National Hurricane Center or your local National Weather Service office for the latest and up-to-date information on Laura and all other storms this season. Now, Laura's satellite presentation tonight has really exploded considerably since earlier. Hot towers have recently been wrapping mostly around the circulation. There might have been a little bit of a dry air issue here, but it doesn't really seem to be much of a problem for Laura tonight um, as hot towers continue to develop around the circulation. In fact, we might even see an eye pop up, or pop out rather, tonight or overnight tonight, because there's just a lot of intense convection going on here. You'll notice there was lightning associated with this earlier. It's starting to wrap around a little bit more now, around where the center is. And recon today has been going in, and they're finding a steadily dropping pressure. Currently, it was sitting at about 980 millibars extrapolated, and from Dropson, possibly 979 millibars. They're going to make another pass pretty soon, and hurricane force winds at the flight level have been found to extend rather far out. Now, this is largely concerning because it shows that Laura could have a rather broad wind field, or it does rather. And of course, a larger storm means more storm surge. And the National Hurricane Center has pretty well illustrated this risk. Their graph here, peak storm surge forecast graphic, some areas could see up to 9 to 13 feet of storm surge, and they've illustrated pretty well. Storm surge could possibly go, in some of these areas, inland 30 miles. And that's nothing to laugh about. Storm surge is the most deadly impact from most hurricanes, and it would be smart if you've been told to evacuate. You should definitely heed those orders from all your local officials, what they've told you to do. If you're in one of these areas and you have been told to evacuate, you should definitely listen to them, because it will not be a joke when Laura comes ashore, or when Laura approaches and storm surge starts coming on shore. Now, looking at some modeling today, Laura's landfall location is more getting narrowed down this evening. It seems likely Laura will make landfall somewhere along the Texas and Louisiana state line. Now, it's going to be close because there has been some shifts. I'll show the GFS here. GFS 18Z run has Laura come ashore just on the Louisiana border east. Now, a lot of this, I should note, showcasing the Euro. Euro is ever so slightly further west. But you shouldn't pay attention to the exact short terms with this, because the track may shift a little bit more overnight as we watch Laura's short-term wobbles. Recently, Laura has tracked just slightly to the east and north of the forecast, the middle of the forecast cone. Now, that doesn't mean that the storm will necessarily track further east. It's possible we see another wobble back west, or we don't. So NHC is noted in this forecast cone. Right now, they have it just about on the Texas-Louisiana state line, so they're about in the middle of the consensus. But it should be noted, it could shift slightly further to the west, closer to an area like Houston, or it could shift slightly further east. Now, that's an issue because obviously, exactly where this storm does make landfall will make a difference in determining exactly where the storm surge does come ashore. But just note there are likely to be some more track shifts, or very slight track shifts. So don't pay too much attention to exactly where this cone is, because it may shift a little bit more, and impacts will be far-reaching, and they will extend outside of the cone, as you'll see indicated by tropical storm warnings here, hurricane watches here, hurricane warnings for a large majority of the coastline here, and some more tropical storm warnings a little bit further west in Texas. Now, the H4F model also shows a similar track to this. It ran today, just recently, and it shows, a landfall just barely along the Louisiana coastline. So, little nudges west or east will matter in the forecast positioning, but we are locking down a more certain area of landfall. Now, looking at recon again, I point this out again. You'll notice that tropical storm force winds extend very far out, which is hence one of the reasons why the National Hurricane Center has issued tropical storm warnings outside of the cone. As we see with most storms like Laura, the wind field can be pretty broad, and therefore you're going to want to make sure that even if you're not in the cone, that you do listen if you have a warnings up or anything. You definitely want to make sure you're prepared for this storm. Laura right now is intensifying. It could be rapid intensification at this point. We'll be getting more recon passes in as the night goes on, I guess, to confirm that is indeed the case. But it certainly has the look of a rapidly intensifying hurricane. Laura could very well be a Category 2 by tomorrow morning. In fact, it seems almost likely. And a major is expected, a major hurricane, Category 3 at least, is expected by tomorrow night before the storm makes landfall. Landfall time is estimated currently to be overnight. It will be either overnight Thursday, early morning hours, or very late Wednesday night. Exact landfall time will, of course, vary slightly depending on how fast or slow Laura tracks over the next 24 hours, and any wobbles, will make a slight difference in the geography of the coastline depending on where it links landfall. So, as we talk about Laura currently is forecasted to peak at a 115 mile per hour storm as per the latest NHC discussion. You'll see it here at landfall on coast, 150 miles per hour. It's possible Laura could get slightly stronger than that, or it could be slightly weaker than that, but currently the NHC does expect Laura to be a major hurricane, and I would agree with them, considering its satellite presentation and its evolution this evening. Seems very likely at this point we'll be dealing with a major hurricane by tomorrow night before landfall occurs. So if you're in the path of Laura, which I'll show the cone one more time, you should definitely be preparing for this storm. Outside of the cone, we will see impacts. Storm surge, as I showed you earlier, could be pretty bad, especially where Laura makes landfall, of course, will be 9 to 13 feet. We'll see if that gets raised possibly tomorrow, just in case. So definitely want to heed warnings if you've been told to evacuate once again. Definitely want to follow those orders and leave. Do not stay. Do not risk your life. Don't assume you'll be fine, because chances are you won't be. It's always better to be safe than sorry. Be prepared for the worst. Play it safe. Now, rainfall, of course, Laura will drop a considerable amount of rainfall too. Of course, always with these tropical storms, hurricanes, you have to worry about flash flooding. Of course, it's always a risk, as the NHC outlines in the key messages. Storm surge is obviously one of the worst impacts that's going to come with this storm. Hurricane force winds being major winds, of course, will be damaging, could be very damaging, and you should definitely be prepared for that. And of course, widespread flash flooding, urban flooding is an issue as well. Now, we'll continue to watch Laura overnight as it continues to strengthen. New recon pass maybe is coming at this point. It has, so I will take a look at that real quick. And recon has found an extrapolated pressure of about 980 millibars. So that's pretty impressive. It's about in line with the last one. Definitely want to wait for drops on to see what that is. But that is indicative of Laura continuing to strengthen. So I guess as closing remarks, I'd like to mention again, if you are in the path of Laura, definitely, listen to warnings, listen to evacuations, play it safe. Make sure you leave. Time is running out, of course. Tropical storm force conditions will arrive by tomorrow, and there isn't really a lot of time left to prepare. So it's important to remember to be prepared, get ready, and of course, stay updated with Laura. I'll be posting more updates, of course, on my Twitter tonight and tomorrow. Keep you updated with the storm. Thanks, and I hope you all stay safe if you're in the path of Laura.